This is life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to, all right, I'm going to do this again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 50 Shades of Over 50. And if you're wondering why I'm laughing, listen, I was about to, just start the introduction, and guess what happened? A hot flash. See, hot flashes come whenever they please. I don't have control over that. So that's why I started laughing when I introduced. I have the fabulous Kiernan today, and I'm so excited to have her. I mean, thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Oh my gosh, thank you for staying on top of me to do this, because I've been so busy and my life has been just so crazy. And I'm excited. I think that we always talk, I feel like women talk a good game about supporting each other and rallying around each other. But I love the women that are actually doing it. So I am just to you. And I just love these conversations, because the change is going to come from within our own community of women.
Yes.
That's
Listen, no one else is going to do it for us. We have to make the change. We have to take steps. And it's not enough. This thing is just going all over the place. And it's not enough for us to just talk about it. We need to take action. Seriously, it's way overdue. And that's why I'm having all these conversations with women who are in their 50s and over, because I think we need to really speak about the truth. And in doing so, we can encourage the other women, because there are lots of women out there. I'm telling you, I've interviewed a lot of women, and a lot of women feel that when they hit 50, that their life is over.
Yeah. You know what? I relate to that. I understand that, because it's a totally different shift. I think that your body changes, sometimes your job changes. And I think especially after the pandemic, so much changed. I celebrated my 50th birthday during the pandemic, and it came on the heels of me, ending all of my, being a year, 2 years out of my cancer treatment. And I just really feel like my whole life changed.
Yeah.
And, people grew apart. So my group of friends, I wasn't seeing them as much, I think that a lot happened for a lot of women our age. And I think people feel more disconnected than ever. And so it's hard when you're even trying to embrace changes that you're unfamiliar with, and not to diminish the medical community, but honestly, I feel like unless you are really hunting out solutions, the average doctor doesn't have solutions for women in menopause.
Yeah. And we don't know. It's sometimes you have something happen, you're like, what is that? What's going on? And you're right. Sometimes you go to your physician and he or she doesn't even know. Right. Because I've spoken with a lot of doctors, they don't get training on menopause. And so now, but what I am glad about though, they're now having certain trainings that doctors can go to specifically for menopause, but that's just in the recent times.
Yeah.
Long time, there was nothing.
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 I feel very grateful at this moment where the conversation is more and more people are talking about it. We're now having people like Gwyneth Paltrow and things talk about it. I feel bad for the generations before us that really didn't have that support. I think that, it's up to us to, what we were saying before is it's really going to be the women that change the conversation and the narrative. I talk about this a lot on my social platforms. And because I feel like unless brands hear about women's demand, if women over 50 start demanding beauty products and skincare products and healthcare products that are focused for women for menopause, it's not going to happen unless we say hey, we're not doing business with you until you start to address, it's the same conversation around, it's really an inclusivity conversation, right? It's beauty brands that put out 7 shades of concealer. It's you can't call yourself an inclusive brand, and the fact that, and when you're not an inclusive brand, you're not an inclusive brand. Period. You're saying everything for us. So the way that you sort of reply to that is to say, well, we're not going to do business with you until you start, including us in that conversation. Yes. And that goes across the board, whether you're, Black, whether you're, whether you're a disability, whether you're an older person, it's up to our independent groups to voice our needs.
Yes. And
So
there are
I'm
different ways
here.
of that. You're right.
I'm here for the 50+ woman.
Yes. And before, I didn't mention this earlier, but she is actually a beauty director. So that's her space. So that's why we're mentioning this.
Yeah.
And you're right, though. But the conversation is changing, though, because now I'm seeing ads with older women. And I was like, you never saw that before. I'm like, and when I mean older women, like, because sometimes you see other and it's like, no, I'm loving that. I'm like, that is like amazing.
Yeah. And it's also like, like when a brand, like the first, menopause brand finally got into Ulta. And it's like, this is kind of stuff we have to celebrate. Like I did something on my TikTok about that because I'm like,
nice.
when Ulta invests in a menopause brand, ultimately they're investing in women over 50. And so I have to support that in my content. It's very important for me to not only raise the issues of like, why is this not being talked about? Or, hey, you guys may not be here yet, but I'm going to just give you some tips on some things, talking about all of it. And I always try to be totally transparent. I probably, and like people are probably like TMI, but like, no. I think that's how it changes, right?
That is how it changes.
Just like get rid of that stigma and around certain conversations. I look around, I see so many women over 50. They're such badasses. Cause I'm like, listen, I never want to be 20 again. I'm going to just say that for the record.
With you on that one.
Like I love my wrinkle-free face, but geez, the 20s, I never want to go back there again.
I know,
but I do feel like, there are so many amazing women that get up every day and they run households and they run businesses and they, and it's a lot to just have to deal with your changing body. Yes. Like, I don't think people understand what, like a man is never going to understand what a hot flash is. Like when all of a sudden your neck is hot and your head is sweating underneath all your hair and you're like, you're drenched through clothes and you have to still be professional in front of a room full of people. It's like, it's y'all are never going to understand how miserable that is. And we just show up. We just show up.
Yeah. And it's interesting you brought out the thing about hot flashes. Like for me, mine come and go, but I have a friend and I really feel for her. Whenever she's putting makeup on, that's when they come. And it's like, it takes her way longer than she would. And 100%. For some of you, you're like, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal.
I literally just did a TikTok on that the other day. I was like, I'm going to get ready. I only allotted like a certain amount of time to get ready in the morning because I'm like, I got shit to do. And all of a sudden I'm like halfway through my beauty routine and I'm like, my hair is starting to get like, my hair gets big and my face and all my makeup is sliding off. And it took me 45 minutes, which should have taken me 15 to 20.
Exactly.
I don't even wear a lot of makeup, people. Like, it's like, so it is, it's little things like that. The hot flashes, the dry vagina.
Listen, the vaginal dryness that took me by surprise. I had no idea. I was like, can we really, and I'm hoping people are listening to this, especially younger people, if they're listening, it's coming. It might not happen, but it's a very common symptom.
Yeah.
And it scared me because I'm like, what is this?
Well, and what's crazy is when I first started, my first interaction with that was twice as hard because I was 41 years of age when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, went through all the treatment and a double mastectomy. And I was put into chemopause, which is chemically induced menopause. So it kickstarts your body. Basically what happens as a result of chemotherapy is it basically dries up you get rid of all your estrogen.
Wow.
And so, I obviously wasn't having sex during cancer treatment. And then I finally was like, yes, I'm a survivor. I got to get back out there. It was like, what is happening? And at first I was like, oh, it's just because it's been a long time. And then it wasn't because it had just been a long time. And I wasn't able to get, I went to my gynecologist and she's like, we can't put you on any estrogen.
Oh yeah, because
it's an estrogen cancer. And it was just like, oh my gosh, what? There was literally nobody that could help me. And I'm like, it wasn't even, what was crazy is when I started to write my book, which is called Pretty Sick, the Beauty Guide for Women with Cancer. And it's a beauty guide for
Yes, I'm going to put the link down below. So
Yeah.
you guys can
On
get
how,
it.
you care for your skin and your nails and your hair and all that kind of stuff while you're going through it. What I found out was shocking. Some crazy number, like 82% of women who will go through chemotherapy will in fact be left with some sort of sexual dysfunction, including, including,
That's a high percent.
it's most women that go through cancer treatment or any sort of chemotherapy will be put into menopause and will have sexual dysfunction as a result. And all of this stuff comes as like a shock to, it's a shock that it's not built into cancer treatment therapies. Like it should be like, hey, you're going to start this journey. Here's what's going to happen to you. Here's how to ease those symptoms. And that is not part of cancer protocol. And it's not part of our
even till today,
beauty. Still to this day. I mean, it was 7 years ago that I went through it. And that's why I was like, I got to write this book because no one else is saying this stuff.
Awareness. We need to know.
And it's just as hard and something that's tough for women to grapple with, because the conversation isn't like, hey, by the way, you're now 42, you're going to be perimenopause. Here's foods you should start eating to help your body.
Thank you.
Here's what you can be doing to, I remember when I interviewed this one woman for my book, and it was all about like what lubes. She was like, I tell people all the time, if you don't use it, you lose it. You should be having sex. You should be, if you're not having sex, you should be using a vibrator.
I had a sex therapist that said that.
Keep you, it's like when you exercise your arms and your legs, like that's what keeps you strong. That's what, as you get older and you need to lift yourself out of your granny chair, it's what's having that arm strength is what's going to do it. And it's the same type of situation. We do microcurrent for our face to keep our facial muscles up. Like, ladies,
we need to take care of our lady parts. But it's true. But I actually had a sex therapist that said that. She said the same thing. You have to keep it going. You need to get the blood flowing in that area. And those are the options you have to do that. Because if not, it's going to get even drier. And it's like, it ends up on when you decide, okay, it just
Exactly. It's just like, listen, if you don't water a plant, the plant is going to dry up and die. It is the same thing for your girlie. So you got to take care of her.
And I just wish that we all knew that. And hopefully this conversation ends up becoming more common where younger girls will know it beforehand, because everyone tells you when you're like 10 or maybe even earlier, 8, puberty, what's happening, your first period, what to expect. Menopause, zero. No one talks about that.
No one said to me, hey, you're going to be in menopause now. And what that means is that, you're going to get hot flashes. You're going to get sticky weight, where I used to be able to be like, oh, I ate too much. Now I'm just going to like go 2 days and do some extra workouts and I'll be back to where I was last week. It is not like that. And there is nothing, it becomes this whole conversation ultimately about your quality of life.
Yes.
If you don't fit into your when you open up your closet and you can only fit into 3 things, it's like a ghost of yourself standing there staring back at you. And all you think about is like what you once were. And it's all about like the hot flashes that like when you can't get a good night's sleep because you have to change your pajamas 2 and 3 times. And it's about like when you feel like you can't remember and you start thinking, oh my gosh, what's wrong?
What's happening?
You? All of these things are, maybe they're not preventable totally, but they're manageable.
They are.
Getting the right information is so key. But when you look at Western medicine and you think about, it is a male dominated industry that while now we have tons of female doctors, the protocols and the textbooks and all of these things are still relatively archaic and passed down. Like the fact that menopause isn't an entire genre of its own within the medical community, and that more people have not voiced complete frustration to that, is really frustrating. I now hunt down all of the, I look on TikTok, I look on I find all of these intuitive female doctors who are having conversations. We're talking about how CBD
Yes, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Huge. And just all of these things that are real, true game changers for quality of life. You are still going to go through this. You're still going to be old. You're still going to get wrinkles. All of this shit is going to happen. But you can embrace it in a more pro-aging mentality.
Yes.
Can manage it and feel like the end of the world is not happening.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that I've dealt with has just been trial and error and finding out my own stuff. But listen, I'm very blessed. I'm in the beauty industry. I have a lot of contacts. Most women are not in my position.
I know. Yeah, I know. Like one of the ones that bothered me for a while. So now my diet has completely changed. Bloating. Foods that I loved in the past.
Yeah.
I don't eat them anymore because whenever I do, I just feel it's almost like, ooh, my stomach just, I'm like, okay, this is not happening for me.
I was really shocked at the things that ultimately, I ended up doing recently. I started eating by the way of the Galveston diet, and the Galveston diet is a menopause focused diet created by a doctor, Claire Haver out of Galveston, Texas. And she's an OBGYN and started, the more and more she had patients and was listening to patients, she was like, there's gotta be a solution. And so she really went deep in on research and figuring out what worked for women. And she created this whole eating plan. And a lot of it is very interesting, very similar to keto, but you're not restricted in the way that you are keto. You're allowed to eat fruits and vegetables. She's really pro on intermittent fasting, and things that really, you still can have your coffee with half and half. You can still have butter. You can still, but there are certain things that really do that are tough. And it's a comprehensive diet. It can be a little overwhelming. I wish they would make it a little bit more understandable for most people. But it's been a real game changer. And I just think, even exercise, it's like, it doesn't have to be, 40 days straight of Barry's boot camp. It's 30 minutes a day of even power walking can move the needle for you. And I think people get really overwhelmed at.
I think women do.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think, and that's one of the things I do with my clients when I speak with them, when I first start working with them, that's the first thing I tell them, like, listen, we're going to take this slow. You don't have to do all the things at once, because I think sometimes we believe, okay, we have to do, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Because when you overwhelm yourself, you know what ends up happening? You do nothing.
Right.
Like you feel so overwhelmed, like, okay, I can't do this. You just like stop. And so just taking it a step at a time. In fact, when I work with my clients, I tell them with exercise, start with 10 minutes a day. Like we're not even trying to, because when you start to build that consistency, your body will be like, let's go, but trying to do the 30 minutes a day when you've done zero, that's hard. It is hard. Coupled with everything else that you have going on in your life. And so I try to incorporate this into people's schedules, and starting small is a great way to go. So for the women out there, I really want you to be, because I think we're kind of hard on ourselves sometimes. Yeah,
we've been told that we've got to be super women. We got to look good. We got to do the family. We got to do the job. We got to and it's like, you can achieve all this and you can, and it's like, there are so many, it's overwhelming.
It is. And I think what I really want to share with women is right now, this time that we're in is your time. Find things that work for you. For a lot of you, if you have kids, you've probably raised kids. If you have a particular job, you've probably worked really hard all your life. You have a business, you're probably running a business. You have parents that you might even be taking care of. I mean, there's lots of moving parts. But in all of that, this is really your time to start to take care of yourself, because I really believe that the way things are going, we're probably going to be living into our 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And so the decisions that you make today, that's what's going to end up in your future. I would say that's your future self that you're creating today. So what are the decisions that you want to make?
Yeah. And I always say, listen, I don't think about it as like, I really tell everybody, I mean, this is how basic it is, because there was a moment where I was just like so overwhelmed, couldn't do anything. I like really was like shutting down almost, especially like after the pandemic. My entire life changed during the pandemic, my job changed, everything. And it really comes down to just do one thing different that's better for you. Just make one good decision every day. It may be like, you know what, today at lunch, instead of having the slice of pizza, I'm going to just have a salad with grilled chicken. Just do one thing a day that you feel proud that you did. And then eventually it's going to be two things you did, because you're going to remember when you got the salad, how you felt physically and emotionally. And then the next day you'll be like, you know what, I'm going to add on to that and do. But I always tell everybody, every day is a new opportunity to make one change.
Yes.
One thing, that's all you got to do.
New slate. Like, what do you want to do? I agree. And
eventually it becomes like, all right, I want to do that today. I'm not going to eat, or today I'm going to get up and I'm not going to sleep in, I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to take a little time to research what I need to do for my menopause journey, whatever it is. Find a good lube, find clothes that don't like allow you to sweat so much, like whatever it is that is going to move the needle in a positive way for you. That's where you start. And I just say one day, one thing. That's it.
I love that. Love that. So I want to tell the people listening how I found you. I found you on TikTok. So for those listening, because I know I get this all the time, people are like, oh, are all the women on TikTok? Yes, they are on TikTok. Lots of us are on TikTok.
The growing demographic, the number one growing demographic on TikTok is the 40+ woman.
Look at that. Exactly. So you think it's for the teenagers, and no, we're out there. And so we're
out there being bad bitches.
Yes, we are. And listen, you don't all have to dance. People get that thing. Oh, no, sharing information. I mean, I love to listen to the information you share, and you share really good information about skincare. So let's talk a little bit about that. So with regards to skincare for cancer patients, like, what is it because some people might be listening and they might be going through this, or they might know someone. So what do you advise? Like, what are some of the things that you would recommend?
Well, skincare when you're going through cancer treatment is a totally different ballgame. Your skin is highly sensitized. You're probably, if you're going through cancer, you might even be about to embark on radiation. The main thing is you can't use anything with an antioxidant. So that's like 90% of skincare these days, right? Everything that is a vitamin or an antioxidant, you can't use. And the reason is this. Because when you're doing chemotherapy, the whole point of chemotherapy is to kill all the cells in your body. Literally, that's the job. It's like partially to kill you, but it's to save you. And you don't want, antioxidants are like the superheroes of the skincare world. They're like when your house is on fire, they're the firefighters coming in and putting out the fire. They are the cell saviors. You don't want to be using a cell saver when you're trying to kill off the cells to kill out. Your chemotherapy doesn't know what is a good cell or a bad cell, so it kills all cells. And so you really need to kind of step back from all that. My easy advice to everybody, which is easy for, instead of looking at the back of a bottle, those ingredient lists are like hieroglyphics. I'm like, the easy answer, the easy guide is to choose all baby products. Baby products don't contain a lot of these things. They're generally gentle formulas. They're going to keep you clean. They're going to keep you feeling good. And they're also going to be hydrating, and they're going to be super, super gentle. So that's the general rule that I give to people.
Oh, that's good to know. I never thought about it. But you're right, though, because they can't put all that kind of stuff in baby products. No, well, they shouldn't be anyway. So, Okay. That's good to know. So for those listening, that's a good place to start, because I'm sure there are probably companies that are doing specific products for cancer patients. But if you don't want to go that route and start searching, just use baby products.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the nice thing about brands that are formulating for cancer patients is that they make it easy, what to purchase. But I have seen some brands that are for cancer patients, they're marketed for cancer patients, and they have antioxidants. And I actually had a conversation with one of those brands. I'm like, who formulated for you? Because the number one rule behind skincare during cancer treatment is to not include antioxidants, and the key ingredient in your product is antioxidants. So I don't know who's helping you formulate, but it's not right.
Yeah.
So I think really, listen, Walgreens has a whole program called Feel More Like You. And it's their pharmacists, as well as all their beauty experts, are trained to help people in cancer. So if you ever have a question and you have a Walgreens by you, you can walk in there and talk to the pharmacist. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. In fact, I did a podcast with them based on my book and around my book. And so they're just like a great reference.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's great to know. So I want to talk a little bit about the your viral video.
Okay. There's been a few.
Yeah, the one I'm talking about is the one where you were getting ready, and I think you're the one I'm talking. So and that's how I found you, actually. That was the video that introduced me to you. So tell me a little bit about that.
It's so funny. I was not even going to post that video. I was getting ready for bed one night, and it was, just doing my skincare. And I really was like looking in the mirror being like, who is this woman? Like, I feel every day like I'm still 30, still 25. Like I still am like sassy that way. But I looked in the mirror that night, and I had just had a really long day, and there were just, I could see every wrinkle on my face. And it was a hard moment for me to like know that it's not going to get better, right? It's only going to get better like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, being in the beauty industry, but just being a woman in America, the pressure, the expectation to, maintain a youthful appearance is so tough. And what frustrates me is that, we have so many female women in this country, celebrities specifically, that have the power to be on to have a platform where they're raising a voice around aging. And, you see some examples, and I'm sure everybody here can think in their mind that, you see all this plastic surgery happening, and it just reinforces this idea that we're not safe to age. We're not allowed to age. There's a pressure to age.
Yeah.
I do feel like, listen,
yeah,
aging is a tough journey, and everyone should be able to age the way they want to age. If they feel like they want to go get 18 facelifts, you go right ahead and get those 18 facelifts. I want us to get to a place as a country where women don't feel the need to be doing this or doing that, or, and that night when I was like, I just want to know how other women are dealing with it, because it's really a hard moment for me right now. I was like really bummed out, and I just recorded this video and I posted it. And then 15 minutes after I posted, I was like, I probably should not have posted that, but I didn't even pay attention to it. I woke up the following morning, 6:30, and I had a lot of feedback on that video. But it was a real moment of reckoning, where you realize that your youth is a part of your past, and that the way there is not far away. And I just was like, I don't really want to be. I'm not opposed to plastic surgery, but I really, I having been a cancer survivor, having had a lot of reconstructions and all that stuff, I know surgery isn't always, you don't always get a great result. And it's an iffy thing. And I think
and it has its own, cons and pros and cons.
Correct. It's
you just never know.
Yeah, you get a good facelift, you're looking at $35,000 easy. You are, and maybe it lasts 5 years, but sometimes it can be a little, there's a risk to surgery.
Always.
It's a risk I'd rather not deal with, honestly, since I've already had a lot of surgery in my life and don't really want elective surgery. I'm not ruling it out, but I also am like, I want to be okay with aging. I want to be at a place where I am okay to like, and I have a lot of younger friends. I think
Mhm.
growing up in beauty, a lot of my friend group are younger than me.
Yeah.
And they're always like, oh, you look amazing. But like, it's hard as I get older and they're still looking great.
Yeah.
It's just, it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And I think I like what you said about, celebrities. And I think they also have a lot of pressure on them too. And because I
Yeah.
see it like, even, I mean, now we're seeing a few brands, showcasing older women, but generally, you don't see older women in ads. We don't even see older women in ads for cars. We purchase things, you know what I mean? We purchase cars, we go on vacation. You don't see, I mean, we live in a very youth obsessed society. So
Listen, even for like older women diapers, literally, like the actors in those commercials are like 35. I'm like, girl, you don't need a diaper yet.
see, that's the thing. It's like it's almost like, oh no, we can't put older women in ads. But we're making the purchases. We have the buying power. Put us in these ads. And I'm hoping that it will change at some point.
Yeah.
But you don't really see us in ads. But we spend a lot of money,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing in beauty too. It's like, I really don't want to have a 20-year-old influencer tell me that, listen, I get it. The way that they're doing their makeup is not the way that a 50-plus-year-old woman is doing their makeup. Like, I wish I could, wear that kind of makeup. It's a total, even the way you put in your concealer, it's a totally different thing. So it's like, I think that the smart brands, and I say this every day, the smart brands are really looking at the horizon of like, where the dollars come from. And yes, that younger set does have spending power. But, a few years ago, Forbes wrote an article about how women over 50 women, I think it was 40, it might've been like 47 to 55 were considered super consumers, because
I saw
women
that
are, have disposable income. We know what we want.
right.
We're power. We're, we're the ones purchasing even our husband's grooming products. So it's like, to me, it's like brands that don't pay attention to that are losing.
They're gonna lose out eventually. I agree with you,
Yeah.
because we do have the purchasing power.
Yeah.
But a lot of the brands are not paying attention to that. But I really commend you for talking about that, because aging is hard. It's not that easy. Like I shared with you just before we came on, it's like I was working out this morning and I was wearing shorts and I was just looking at my legs. I'm like, the skin didn't look the same. I was like, oh, okay. So you have those moments where you're like, okay, and we're going to be honest, it's not always like, because sometimes people tell me, oh, you always look so cheerful and joyful and happy. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean I don't have those moments when I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? And, because we're aging, but I also know that we have a duty, in my opinion, to change this narrative around aging, where we can be more, we can have the support. Because right now there is none. I mean, just look at things like you go to the grocery store and you want to buy a birthday card for someone who's over 50. You have things like, oh, you're over the hill, your life is over. They think that's in jest and it's a joke, but you're sending a message out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I think it's like moments like that when you see like cards like that, like do the TikTok. Hey, Hallmark, why is everything got to be over the hill after 50?
Yes.
Where's your positive pro-aging?
It's so funny. It's so funny you say that, because I'm actually planning that.
Yeah. Well, you should, it's moments like that where, this is the power of social media, and being able to have a voice where you can get a brand. And we really see this on TikTok, right? One person will do a video, it'll go viral, and all of a sudden, like, the brand is like, oh my God, and it's the same thing. We do have the power, but it's like, it's like women had to, how long did before women got the right to vote, think about that. And really in general, it's like there is a war. I truly believe there is a war on women. I think.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. I'm with you on that.
That women's medical choices are being taken away from them.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a really scary time. It really is a scary time. The way that we win on all these fronts is to show up.
to show up. Yes, we have to show up. You're right, because I was doing some research on just, like medication, and I was looking at research, and that for the longest time they would do research only on men, but the medication would be applicable to men and women. We're different.
Yeah,
we don't metabolize the same way.
We're better.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, what is, I'm like, our bodies are, I'm like, but so even menopause, it doesn't surprise me that, it's really not. I mean, I read an article once where it said menopause is the most overlooked medical condition in the world. Mm-hmm. I agree with that, because it's not, men don't experience it, so they're not gonna be bothered with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, if we can create, medicines to, listen, men have options.
They have a lot of options.
Men have a lot of options. And what part of it is that, it's like men are still running most of the conversations at pharmaceutical companies, at medical, medical textbook company, like it just is. And so I think it starts to change. The louder the voice, the louder, you know what? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's it. And that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're talking, we're saying this. And so for those listening, we need all your voices. We really need to show up. And when you see things that don't look quite right, like speak up about it. Like, we're the ones that are going to make the change. No one's going to make it for us. And we can start now. And think about, if we can make a change, think about the younger generation. It's going to be way better for them. Way better.
But listen, the younger generation's got it. I mean, they're literally like, they cancel everybody on TikTok.
I know, right? I know, right?
Listen, everybody's like, we hate cancel culture, but it's like, you know what? Sometimes you got to cancel a brand if they're not
doing what they're supposed to.
If they're not, aware of their, of where they're supposed to be at, socially, morally, financially, all these things. Like, I don't necessarily think cancel culture is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I think cancel culture
has its place for sure.
People that need to be canceled.
Yeah.
And I think that and I'm not saying you have to out brands, and I generally try to keep my feed really positive and to call out, when a brand is including older women in their content. And that's why I like to do partnerships, quite frankly, because I'm like, these are brands that are actually supporting older content creators. Like, I'm having a second career now, and it's because partially because of brands that want to partner with me, because they understand that there is a platform to be. So it's like, when I see an older female TikToker, that's even an older man TikToker that's like doing a partnership, I go buy that product. I agree with you. It's like that. And then I follow the brand, because I'm like, you know what? You guys are speaking, you're supporting. That's how it's done. It's not just about liking the video. It's about
take action,
business with that brand, the action, the
take
money,
the next step. Take the next step. Exactly.
The money.
That's how you make a brand.
Support that influencer. Yeah. Because those are people that are going, are voicing something that other people aren't voicing. And it takes a little bit of you gotta, like, it's hard to talk about.
It's hard. It's lost courage. It's not easy, because most of us just kind of like, okay, let's just stay in the, in the shadows. It's hard. Yeah. But it's worth it in the long run.
It certainly is.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. It took us a while to get here, but we did it. I'm so glad.
Because of you. Thank you so much. You're wonderful. This was fun.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and let's go. Let's go ahead and take action. Yes.
Do this. 15 fabulous, right?
Thanks. Yes, for sure.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
If you enjoyed listening to the show, you have to take a look at Flourish, my monthly online community for women in their 50s and beyond. We talk about the important issues affecting women in their 50s and over, and provide tools and resources to help you live your best life. Join me by clicking the link Flourish Online Community in the About Me section below. I'd love to have you join me. See you there.